What's up, entrepreneurs? Welcome to another interview here on BatchTV, where we help you identify the switch you need to flip in order to unlock your full potential. My name is Kyle Redmond, and today we have the honor of interviewing Tyson Smith, a 24-year-old real estate investor that is by far one of the most consistent investors in the game. In 2020, Tyson graduated from college and made the leap of faith to dive right into the real estate market with a local investment firm. Unfortunately, the timing wasn't the best because soon after he started, the pandemic hit. So Tyson pivoted, and instead of hanging up his boots, Tyson decided to start a wholesaling real estate business. After making hundreds of calls a day, he got 3 homes under contract, and since then, he has not looked back. Fast forward to today, Tyson owns a 7-figure wholesaling business and mentors students all over the United States on how to start and scale a successful wholesaling business. I honestly cannot wait to dive into today's episode, but before we do, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so that you can still get educational content for free. Now that we've got that out of the way, with further ado, I give to you Tyson Smith. What's going on, Tyson?
Nothing much, Kyle. Thank you for having me today, man.
Yeah, of course. So I think it's safe to say there's a lot of people out there when it comes to basically like understanding real estate. They all want to know, like, how did you get started? And what is your story and journey of becoming a successful real estate agent?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I was a beginner, right? So when I got into this, I really didn't know what I was doing. To tell you the truth, the way we really got kickstarted was I spent my COVID stimmy check on a wholesaling course. And what this course gave for me was like a couple scripts, the contracts, and like a little like calculator to use to analyze deals, and some lists, like a list to call. And I just took that and I was like, listen, I don't care if I screw up. Like, I've seen what these other people are doing on social media, and if they can do it, I can too. And I just got started. So the way it, happened in the beginning is, we got this course, came through it, and I just started making calls. And I just was doing the calls very badly. Like, I got into it with just not knowing what I was doing. I was trying to use this script and it was just bad. But every single day I just kept at it, right? So I would just come in every single day and for 8 hours a day at least, right? Making calls all day long, calling homeowners, hey, do you guys want to sell? Hey, do you want to sell? Hey, do you want to sell? And heard a lot of profanities, a lot of no's, but through that and just staying consistent every single day and being focused on what could happen, eventually, like you mentioned, I got lucky and we got a deal under contract, 3 properties in Ajo, Arizona.
Wow.
So if you guys don't know, Ajo is right next to the border of Mexico. Really small town here in Arizona. And I ended up driving down to the property because this was like before virtual wholesaling was really a thing.
Yeah.
So we drove down to the property and we ended up buying all 3 of them for $25,000. And then after I got it under contract, I was like so excited. But then like, I was, okay, now like I have to sell this, or, just the contract isn't worth anything to me.
Yeah.
And we ended up JVing. It was actually with Corey Geary. He had a buyer in Ajo, and we ended up selling it for $55,000. So we got it under contract for $25,000, sold it for $55,000. So it was a $30,000 spread. I JV'd the deal with Corey, so we each took half. And on that day, I got a $15,000 check. Now, keep in mind, like at the time, like that was the most amount of money I'd ever had at one time. So like, I was literally like, I'm the richest guy in the world. But more importantly I was like, I knew how hard I busted my ass to get that first deal, right? We're talking every single day, being on a dialer, thousands of calls a day, and just hearing no over and over again. And during that time, right, this is 2.5 months of me making calls every single day. And many days feeling like I wasn't moving forward at all. In fact, most days I felt like I was going backwards, right? All I'm getting is no's and rejection, all these things. And that pain was fresh. And I was like, look, I want to be able to spend this money so that I can make getting this next one so much easier. So thankfully, I had the wisdom to do that. And I put some money into marketing, right? I got some more lists. I hired VAs. And through that just really set me up, because here's the thing. Got the first one and now it was real to me, right? I knew how possible it was. I'd seen the money in my account and like that flipped a switch for me. And I'm a firm believer that the best thing that you can invest in yourself when you're getting started is in yourself.
Amen.
So masterminds, courses, mentorships. Anytime I saw somebody that I thought was doing something that I want to be able to do, I was like, okay, hey, how much do I got to pay you for you to show me how to do that? Through then, I learned all kinds of different stuff, right? I learned about different forms of marketing. I learned how to hire and manage salespeople. I learned how to become a better salesperson myself. All these different things, and just from getting bits and pieces from all these different educational things I was doing, pouring back into my company. And then, eventually now 3 years later, here we are today. And, I'm very thankful that it's gone the way it has and that there's still plenty of room left to grow.
Boom. So there you have it. And there's a couple of things that I've noticed there. And number one is, guys, you're not going to have all of the answers like to anything when you're starting a business, right? Like you have to just take action. You have to get in the trenches and you just got to keep pushing forward, right? And that's the key. And that's what he did, right? He dove in, he got educated, right? And then he basically took action. And that is the key when starting a business, is just getting in those trenches, getting your knees dirty and just grinding, right? So I think this is a good question to ask. And I think for the majority of individuals out there in their 20s, right? Let's face the facts. I think there's a lot of people that want to start a business, right, at a young age, but they're working a 9 to 5, and it's probably because of complacency.
Yeah.
So I think what made you decide to go into business for yourself at a young age? And, what advice would you give to somebody that maybe is on that fence of quitting their 9 to 5 and starting a business?
I always knew that I wanted to have an extraordinary life. And looking at it, I just was saying, okay, what are these traditional jobs that could actually pay me to live the kind of lifestyle I wanted to?
Yeah. And
they really don't exist. Yes, there are some things. You could go work on Wall Street for, 5 or 6 years and then start making really good money, or there's some different ways. But I was like, those really aren't available to me. I don't really have the education for it. From that, getting interested into it, I realized that this is kind of what I had to do. If I really wanted to make the sort of money I wanted to, it was like, I have to work for myself.
Yep.
I can't spend my time building somebody else's dream. I have to build my own. But for anybody who's, kind of on the fence, and I'm seeing these people, right? They're probably on social media and they see the different things, right? And they're like, man, I really wish I could do that. There's two things that I would like to tell them. Number one is, look, if you have a 9 to 5 and it's paying your bills, that's great. Keep doing that. But after your 9 to 5, you have another 5 to 9. So instead of, spending every single evening watching Netflix or watching sports or whatever it is you do, dedicate some of that time to building the reality that you want out of life. So if you tell yourself right now, if you're sitting here watching this, you're like, man, I really would like that. Well, ask yourself, how much would you like that? Do you like it enough to give up some of that stuff you're doing on the evening, to give up some of this other stuff you're doing on the weekends? In this case, when it comes to you wanting to start a business, you have to think, what am I willing to give up right now? What am I willing to sacrifice? How much of this fun little me time can I give up to actually do these things that I want to do? And if you start spending your evenings and your weekends doing something like this, doing something like wholesaling real estate, even if you're not doing it, perfectly correct the right way, but you're just putting in the action, you're calling people, you're asking if they want to sell, you're talking to buyers, your 5 to 9 is going to replace your 9 to 5 income very quickly.
Oh yeah.
And then, you're going to be just off to the races to, really grow the business is how you please.
It's like, what are you willing to sacrifice in order to achieve the life that you want to live, right? And you have to sacrifice. So he's 100% right. Pay the bills with the 9 to 5, but after your 9 to 5, you better be grinding. We briefly talked about your mentorship program. And as a mentor, what is something that now that you wish you would have known when you first started?
Well, it's quite a bit. So here's the thing is, when people are first getting started into this, I hear a lot. They're like, hey, what are some books I should be reading? What are some things like that? I'm like, look, if you really want to learn this, you're not going to do it with your nose in a book. You're going to do it by taking action.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the thing about wholesaling real estate is it evens the playing field for everybody. It doesn't matter if you have a shitty credit score, if you have a felony, what you've done in your past, who you are, if you don't have a lot of money, as long as you're over the age of 18, and you have the will and the discipline to do what it takes every single day, which is honestly just making phone calls. And as long as you can do that, you can make it happen, right? So yes, you might have heard no a bunch of times, but eventually you're going to get that person, right? And once you get that first deal, everything will change for you. Here's the wonderful thing about wholesaling real estate is success comes in tidal waves. So that first deal, that can mean a really big payday. It just is not possible in other industries. In what other industry can you just kind of mess up, get lucky, and make $50,000?
Let's dive into like your virtual assistants.
Yeah.
And what is like the workflow with them, but also the hardest part of taking yourself out of some of those roles and then delegating it. Like, what are you delegating to them, and what are you doing yourself that you will never delegate?
Well, number one is I've become kind of like obsessed now with like delegation and having other people do stuff. But it was not like that at first, because in the beginning, I know a lot of people have this problem where it's like, look, if you have somebody come in and do something in your business, they're never going to do it as good as you can. And that's just something you have to accept. Like, but if you can get somebody who can do something 80% as well as you can, then that's good. But here's the thing, you only have so many hours in the day. So you need to be able to buy back time in order to get to that next level. So is what I started to do is just, I took, what are the tasks I hate doing the most? And then let's get rid of those. So for me, it was like cold calling. Now, when it comes down to like, what are some things that I just absolutely won't like ever outsource to anybody else, or what I've really come down to that is just, it's decision making.
Yep.
Everything, I think, if I look in like, especially a wholesaling business, like that can all be done by somebody else. Now, are they going to be as good as you most of the time? No. I think it's going to be very difficult to find an acquisitions guy who's going to be as good as I am, or tons of different other positions in the business. But the thing that you always want to keep, and this is something I've learned the hard way, is the decision making for your business. When it comes to hiring mentors and things like that, yes, you want to be able to reach out to these people and get their insight on what they think is the next level, the next thing you can add to get you to where you want to be. But you always have to keep in mind of yourself, and you need to look at everything and realize that our whole lives we're taught what to do. But I believe that the real progress happens when all of a sudden you start thinking for yourself.
So you also need tools in your business.
Yes. Yes.
So, I know you love to use batch leads. So what are a couple of your features that you really like using?
So, I mean, here's the thing is my business, I couldn't do what I did without batch leads. I need batch leads to, number one, get the best available data for me, because I do not want to waste my time calling people who are going to have no reason why they would need to sell their property at a discount. I can't help those people. So I need batch leads to get the data. And number two, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I need batch leads to skip trace. Now, here's the thing, is I have tried many other different skip tracing providers. They're out there, and some of them offer much cheaper pricing.
Oh, they all do.
And listen, I have tried all of them, but every single time I run the data, right? So, because I'll look and I'll have different reports. So I'll go try another, let's call it skip tracing. We'll have batch leads. We have skip tracing A, skip tracing B, and skip tracing C. I will pull the same exact data always from batch leads. Easiest, best place to pull it. I'll pull it, and then I will give 10,000 records to one VA, skip trace with batch leads, the same 10,000 records, skip trace with skip tracing A to another VA, and so on and so forth.
Yep.
Every single time. The skip tracing from batch leads outperforms these others by so much further. So when it comes to cold calling, a really important metric to look at is your contact rate.
Oh, yeah.
Like how many people are answering the phone. Batch leads will perform at 10% higher than all of these other people, which when you're running a business at scale is the difference between a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, okay, we realize like I've tried to go on the cheap route, and I realize, okay, you kind of get what you pay for on this. Like it's not worth spending the money to not talk to the people you need to talk to, right?
Correct.
So I need batch leads to pull my data. I need batch leads to filter, sort, stack my data, right? To make sure that I'm calling the most highly targeted people, like the people who are going to most need my company's help. And then I need it to skip trace, right? Because just an address isn't going to do me anything. So I'm telling you guys what, look, I'm lazy, and I'm not going to walk down to these properties and knock on the door. I want to call them from the comfort of my own home, okay? So I need a skip trace. And then, honestly, I would say probably, I mean, almost more important, but you just really need them both, is batch dialer. Because here's the thing. I told you in the beginning, I was able to make, right, thousands of calls a day. You can't do that without a dialer.
Correct.
If you are hand dialing, because this is how I started, if you are hand dialing, it would be unreasonable to expect that you make 150 calls in a day if you're dialing every single number yourself, is like you are working 10 hours that day, right? If you're working 8 hours, like 100 calls is like really good. When I'm using batch dialer, I can make 150 calls an hour, right? So think about this. You take one person who's hand dialing every single time, and he can only make 100 calls a day, and you take another person who's spending the money, the $100 it is to get batch dialer, and they can make 1,000 calls a day, who's going to get that first deal faster?
Oh, yeah.
He's going to get that first deal 10 times faster than this other guy is, right? So for me, it's like, it's a no-brainer. I tell people all the time, like if I had to go over, start from zero, I would go work at McDonald's until I had the money to get Batch Dialer, because it's that important in my business.
Beautiful. And you know, in this day and age, your sales team or your VAs are only as good as your data. And that's why we focus so hard on making sure our data is good. But when you have your data and then you can put it in a multi-line dialer, that's when you really supercharge things.
Yeah.
Right. That's why we created the Batch Dialer and Batch Leads that basically will integrate into each other so that it's seamless and easy for you or your team and built for scale, which is key. All right. So he said it perfectly. So this is the moment at the end of the show where we ask our guest the number one question I like to ask.
Okay.
And that question is, if you were to leave one piece of advice behind for everybody watching, what words of advice would you leave?
One piece of advice for everybody watching. Here's what I'm going to tell you. You have to understand who the person that you want to be is, and then backwards engineer from them of what does that person do every single day. So I understood of who did I want to be, right? And I could visualize this so clearly. It's like, what does that person do every day? Well, they probably wake up early because they have a lot of shit to do. They're probably in the gym every single day because something very important is you need to know what this person looks like. And in my head, my ideal version of myself is jacked. So I must be up early. I must be in the gym. That person has a lot of money. What does somebody who has a lot of money do every single day? They work hard. They work on income producing activities. So now it's like, okay, I need to work on income producing activities for as much time as I possibly can a day. What else does this person have? They probably have really great relationships with other people who are of similar caliber. So what do I need to do? I need to reach out to a certain amount of people every single day and build my relationships with them, right? This person is going to have to need a lot of energy to do these things. So this person does not fill themselves with shit, right? They consume high quality foods that are going to allow them to be this person throughout the day, right? But here's what I'm saying. The point of this all is what you touched on earlier. Your habits are going to control who you are. So what are the habits of the person I want to be? What do they look like every single day? And instead of waiting for me to be that person, it was like, I'm just going to start living exactly how that person would. And throughout time, those habits are going to carry me to be that guy. So right now, if you're watching something like this, number one, kudos to you because you're already right above 99% of the competition. But think about who it is you want to be, because clearly you are not satisfied with who you are now. So think about, who is this person? What is the most ideal superhuman version of yourself? What do they look like? What do they do? How do they spend their time? And then instead of waiting for X, waiting till, oh, well, that I can only do that if I made $1 million a year, whatever. Instead of waiting for this arbitrary metric, just start living how that person would today. And then watch what happens over the next 5 years.
How do people find you online?
So I'm on Instagram at Tyson_Smith. You can find me on TikTok where I go live daily showing you guys exactly how I buy houses at a discount. I wholesale live on TikTok like every single day. It's some of the most fun I have doing. I love doing it. So you can follow me on TikTok, see that. Also, I put out free content on YouTube showing you exactly how to get started in this business. Tyson Smith on YouTube. Find me those 3 places. Also, if you have questions, please send me a DM. I'd be more than happy to help you. And if you are at this point watching this where you're like, yup, I'm ready to learn, I'm ready to make that jump, then go ahead, find me on socials, click the link in my bio, and sign up for the free class I'm doing where I will show you exactly how to get started wholesaling real estate. I'll show you every single step you need, right? As I said earlier, all it takes is somebody with discipline, willing to work hard, and a certain amount of specialized knowledge of, you know, what to say to people, how to find the people, how to find the cash buyers, and everything like that. And I'll show you all of that during this free class. So get signed up for that if you're ready to change your life and take the next step forward to being the person that you want to be.
Well, that's it. That's the end of the show. Thank you all for being here today. And until next time, let's get it.